Okay, so this video is going to demonstrate using InDesign as a layout tool to quickly get a couple of very similar image files from Illustrator and lay them out in 11 by 17. And so we're going to basically utilize the information we generated in the Mosaic project here. So I'll go ahead and close this down. And I'm just going to cycle through so I get to Illustrator. And what I've done here is I've created, if I open up, a series of these guys that are all the same dimension. In here we have monochromatic, achromatic. So as we cycle through them, we can start to manipulate these guys and plug them in. So I don't need to open up. Everything should be done in Illustrator, and we should have just saved us several versions of those files and named them out. So we're going to go ahead and plug those into Adobe InDesign. And so the first thing we can do is I'm going to be just doing a series of things for print. These don't need to be facing because they're not going to be a book. I'm going to go ahead and turn this into a tabloid, and we're going to do this in portrait format. So I'll go ahead and hit OK. Tabloid is 11 by 17. I'm going to change my units right away. Edit. I scroll down here. Preferences. Units and increments. Out of that picos. Right. Hit OK. We can see that that's updated. I'm going to pull a guide down. There's going to be 2 graphics per page here. 11 by 17. That's going to be about 8.5. Way down, you can see that registered. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to hit Control D to place my first guy, and so I'm just going to go ahead and select this, and it pops up here. I'm going to use my guides and drop this into the bottom corner here. And so I'm going to cycle through a couple of quick hotkeys. If I hit Control H, I can turn off the frame edges here. If I hit E, I can go to Free Transform, that's over here, and I can just hit click, and if I hold Shift, I can scale this up. And I'm just going to grab that so it goes over to our boundary here. Now if we select this and zoom in, you'll notice that this is a fairly low resolution image. It looks like crap. But that's not actually how this is working. This is linking to a file in your hard drive as opposed to actually embedding it from the start. If you want to see what this will actually look like, you can right click, and under display performance you can turn this onto a high quality display, and you can see that that updates, and then we can zoom in and we get a really nice clear representation of what's going on here. If you want to do that for the entire document, you can go under View, Extras, Display Performance, and you can turn on the high quality display for all of the images. And Extras is if you want to turn on and off the frame edges manually. Okay, so the nice thing about InDesign is now I've gone through a couple operations here. I've transformed this, I've hidden that frame edges, and all of my files are actually very similar. They're the same dimension. So instead of having to go through and free transform and do all the edits, InDesign, if I hit Control C and Control V, will remember that I've done all that editing on this. So if I take my next document here and I hit Control D for the second guy, it'll automatically update with all of this stuff in here, and then I'm gonna shift that down. So it'll automatically remember all of the operations that I performed on it, including the display stuff. So all of this stuff gets represented very, very quickly. Okay, so I can then come over here and create a new page, and I'm going to copy my guide, Control C, right click. I can paste in place, which will paste it in the exact same location. I can also do that with these. If I hit Control C, I can right click, go ahead and paste in place. Gotta make sure I'm on that page. Paste in place, and you can see that it located those exactly in the same spot. So I hit Control D to place the next. So we'll go to our achromatic. Alright. And if it doesn't actually land appropriately in there, we can click, and there, you see that hand tool will pop up, and where it turns brown we can edit within the frame. So we can go ahead and just grab that and shift him around. Hit V. I'm going to zoom out. Go ahead, and since I imagine the next one's probably going to have the same editing issues, I'm just going to Control C, Control V, paste that, and hit Control D, go with monochromatic. And it looks like we're losing the tip of our wing now. Alright. And we have one last spread to locate here, and that's our final rendered. Hit Control D. I'm going to go ahead and place the mosaic here. And I'm going to go ahead and make this as big as I can. Nope. And if I don't go on that, it goes to automatically cropping, so I can make that window bigger. But if I just go to free transform or hit E, I can scale this up. I'm just going to blow this up in here. Scale this up a little bit more. If I go back to V, then I can go back to the cropping and I can trim out some of this extra stuff that I don't necessarily care about for representation of this. Right, and then we can come in here. The nice thing about this is this bounces back and forth between the vector and the editing, so I can, if I use the text tool, I can actually give this, I'd actually draw a text box here. So we'll call this base line work. Control A, and I can increase the size of this. This is all going to have to be read from a pretty good distance. So something you want to note is that InDesign does not have a spell check. It does, but it's, for all intents and purposes, it's basically useless. So make sure that if you're doing any kind of word processing, if you're doing it for titles and stuff like that in InDesign, triple check your work. If you're doing it, otherwise you should be typing in Word or some other word processing document. And we'll just go ahead and pick a nice font here. Control A, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. So go ahead and hit that. Control C. Control V. Okay, and so on. So you guys can go through here then and start to title each one of those guys. And then so what we can do from there, and we can get all this nice line work embedded so that when we take this thing to print, it'll actually print the line work appropriately, and it'll print the vector work, the raster work appropriately. We can go ahead and go File, Export, and we're going to export a PDF for print, and we'll just call this Mosaic Spreads. We can go ahead and save that, and we'll just do all pages, and you note that high quality print. We'll hit OK, and it's going to go through and create a PDF out of that, and it's probably going to do this relatively quickly, but if you want to track it when you're doing things like portfolio, you can track that with a background task. Make sure that that's open. So then we can go ahead and I'll tab here and I'll cycle into this. I'll go to the desktop where I saved it, and we can go ahead and double click and open those up. And you can see as we zoom out that this is now basically ready to take to print. Okay, and then that should get you all set up. The last thing you want to do is, if you have located these files in disparate locations, you can do a thing called packaging, and that will basically take all of the files in all the different locations, because like I said, it's not embedding this, it's just linking to them. We can package all that together. So I'm going to go ahead and just create a package. Go ahead and save this to the desktop, and we'll go ahead and create a file here that's just Mosaic. Okay, and we're not doing this for anything. Just call this the Mosaic folder, and I'll go ahead and package everything. And again, if we cycle back to our desktop, where that might be here, we can see our Mosaic folder, and then it puts all the document fonts that we're using, ISO Courier, and then all of the links, all of the guys that we're in here are in one convenient location. So it's a good way of backing up your work as you go through it. All right.